Hello everybody, my name is Markipliers, and today I'm going to be telling you all about Venik's art style. All jokes aside, I have recently spent an embarrassing amount of time studying and understanding his artistic style, breaking down how he did his impact frames, lighting, how he frames his animation, and how it has culminated in his style today. Obviously, this is very different from any of my normal videos, but expect some interesting work soon in the future. Now, the primary thing I wanted to focus on is the more advanced, yet still somewhat basic techniques Venik used in his Premiere. Sorry if I'm butchering your name, by the way. And the main ones I want to focus on are translucent rendering, glare, compositing, and render passes. So to start, I'm going to talk about this scene here. This is an impact frame. Impact frames are one or more frames at the moment of an animated strike, impact, or possibly explosion. The frames are used to signify the impact that occurs on screen, using lighting and representational shapes to signify the action that's happening on screen. Now, the big question that you're really asking is, how did Venik create this particular impact frame? Well, Venik uses this little platform called Blender, and in this little render selection here, I can choose what things I want to render. The scene lighting, the world lighting, and more importantly than these two things, I can choose my render pass. By default, this render pass is combined, meaning that all elements of a render, the lighting, the shadows, textures, the lighting impact on shadows, the distortion of light via normals, and all sorts are handled all at once. But if you want to create an impact frame effect, you can render things separately. Namely, you can render just one element of a scene. Venik, in this example, rendered the scene with a shadow pass, which gives you this look here. Combining this with his set elements and ultimately some editing and post-production culminated in the same shot that he created. But this is just one example of an impact frame, and Venik used a similar but different one for Chris. In this scene, Chris extends a blade from his hand and drives it into the metal skull of Connor, the fake one. As he does so, the scene's rendering changes to an impact-framed variant, with a completely different style of lighting. Now, there are a few ways to achieve this lighting, and for that reason I'm not entirely sure how Venik did it, but my guess is that Venik took the armature, moved it out of the scene, and into the dark void of space, rendered the background as translucent, and removed all the lighting. This is the result. Now, it is missing quite a lot, namely the orange background, but the emissives are present, and the black. So, what are we missing? Two things. First one is easy, orange background. But more importantly in this scene, both Chris and the corrupted version of Connor have been given Tun Shaders. Tun Shaders? What are those?
Question for you. What are those?
Okay, sorry, that was cringe. Tun Shaders are a method of shading that give the impression of a 2D space in a 3D scene. Now, Venik actually used Tun Shaders when he first started, likely by following one of the many tutorials, but he later scrapped the style completely for his next videos, until it came back, just now. More specifically, Venik didn't use an entire Tun Shader, but just part of it. Instead of shading the shadows in a very flat manner like most Tun Shaders, Venik decided to use only the emissive outline, the same one we see on both Chris and Corrupt Connor during this impact frame. To make one is simple. You add a material, add an offset, make it emissive, and then color it. The thickness of the material will impact the thickness of the outline. Ironically, I can tell this is exactly how Venik did the Tun Shader part, because he either forgot to, or chose deliberately not to, add this same shader to Connor's blade, which is in Corrupted Connor's chest. Compositing. This part is simple, so simple it's almost devious. Go to Compositor, View Nodes, add glare, change to bloom, tweak. That's it. Venik's latest. Venik recently updated us all on his Discord with this beautiful image. Mwah. This is Venik playing around with his lighting, bloom, characters, which now have more black to their grayscale, and interestingly, god rays. What are god rays? Good question. God rays are crepuscular rays, sometimes colloquially referred to as god rays, or sunbeams that originate when the sun appears to be just above or below a layer of clouds during the twilight period. What does that mean? I don't know either, so I'll just show you this image. Make sense? Cool. How do you make these? Simple. Grab a surface, poke holes into it, add light behind it, go into the shading editor, grab a volume scatter, add it to volume. Boom. God rays. And that's a full breakdown of Venik's visual style so far, except his animation. Okay, so I originally had like an entire another 2 minutes of script that I was going to do. It's actually recorded and sitting on my computer. But I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of lazy, and I've already done this much. So if you really like it and want a part 2, where I go over the actual animation style that Venik uses, not just how he creates his visual, but how he animates. I mean, I guess I have to have this video do well. But I hope this helps.